Hello, and welcome to the wasteland, where I am currently face down in the dirt while my body is chewed apart by mole rats. But to understand how we got here, we first need to take a few steps back, to a time before the bombs dropped. It's the year something or other. The world is teetering on the brink of nuclear war. The future of civilization hangs in the balance, and I am performing plastic surgery on myself in the mirror. Once I was finished creating something resembling an underfed homelander, I said hi to the wife, hi to the robot, shat in the microphone, and became haunted by the soulless baby. As I was thoroughly inspecting my own bedroom, there was a knocking of the doorbell. As I opened the door, I saw a man with a clipboard in his hand. But despite my best efforts, I couldn't get the door to shut, so I was forced to be more forceful about getting the salesman off my property.
Go away.
But just the same as every other salesman that knocks, he wasn't gonna leave until I complied.
Come on, hon. It's just a little paperwork. Let him fill it out, and it's done.
After my wife told the man we were interested in what he was selling, I reluctantly filled out the form. After many minutes of thinking, I came up with the extremely menacing name of
Dr. Killstab.
Except I somehow misspelled stab and named myself Dr. Kill Slab. And being a doctor means intellect is very important. But beyond that, all other skills were about average, with the exception of strength and luck. Because when you have a brain as big as Dr. Kill Slab, size has to be the compensation. And if anyone manages to create a literal hell abomination such as this, then clearly they're not very lucky. The next few events went by pretty fast. The newsman cried, the baby whined, a lot of people died, I got frozen in time, and the wife got fried. Once awakening from my frozen slumber, I took the wedding ring from the frozen corpse of the wife and headed out of the vault. As the vault doors opened, I was consumed by a thick gray fog. My ears were filled with the sounds of a beeping and a little girl crying for help. What the fuck is that? Before I was even able to leave the platform, the suspense was relieved almost immediately, as I saw the source of the noise. That's a walking tree. As I grew closer to the wailing monstrosity, I came to the realization that what I was looking at was Siren Head. You know, the monster that has speakers for its face. I pressed on to get a closer look, and promptly had the contents of my bowels expelled. I'm detected. Are we friends? Are we friends? What the fuck is this? What the fuck? Oh, no. Oh, what the fuck is this? What the what the fuck? Oh, I'm crippled! Oh my god, I'm gonna die. What the, oh my Jesus Christ. Oh, what the fuck are you? Well, dead again. Considering my new one was stolen, I suppose I'll have to resort to my old crystal. Hopefully it holds. As I was released from the vault for a second time, I headed out in the opposite direction, and I made my way to Sanctuary. Confused at the circumstances I found myself in, here, I spoke to my robot butler that somehow managed to survive a nuclear explosion. I then scrapped half the homes for parts before heading to the town of Concord, in the hopes of finding someone who knew why I was attacked by a living telephone pole. As I left Sanctuary, I spotted the outline of a figure through the fog. After it yelled otherworldly noises at me, I pulled out my pistol, ready to open fire if it did anything suspicious. As I continued to crawl forward, whoever this was didn't seem to be hostile. So I walked up to say hello. Oh my god! Okay, things clearly aren't normal in the wasteland. So now that I'm more determined than ever to find out what the hell is happening, I marched onward toward... What the fuck? What the fuck? Okay. Now I'm more determined than ever to find someone to travel with. And I didn't have to travel far to find him. A little up the road was Red Rocket Truck Stop, where I found a stray dog and claimed it as my own. As I was leveling up my medical skills, the dog, and myself, came under tooth and claw of a pack of rabid mole rats, which I was almost thankful for after having the last few enemy encounters. We eliminated the threat quickly, but if they were popping up like this, then there must have been a nest nearby. And after some careful consideration, I was thinking about turning this truck stop into my own personal anti-Siren Head fortress, which couldn't happen if we were constantly under siege by rats. Once I found their nest, I went inside, gifted them a 10mm bullet or two, then robbed them of their fusion core, and headed on my merry way, into Concord. As I slowly crept down the abandoned streets, it wasn't long before I found the first signs of life. Another one of those figures was walking around in a side street. Easy enough to avoid, I thought, until I turned the corner to find them littering the main street. Just as level 1 luck would have for me, it sounded as though there were people on the other end of the street that I needed to get to. And worse, all the figures seemed to be walking in my direction. So, I concocted a brilliant plan. Yahoo! Oh my god, I'm getting just. Oh my, stop it! Stop. Get inside. Once I made it inside, completely unscathed, I immediately came under fire from the group of raiders within. As quickly as I sprinted through the crowd of protesters in the street, I opened fire on the raiders, and it wasn't long before they were all defeated. After seeing who was inside the building, I understood why such a large mass of evil creatures had gathered outside. A greater threat to someone's sanity, thousands of times stronger than anything Lovecraft could conjure up, lay inside.
They could use our help.
Oh god! Oh, I'm really regretting not having invested in luck. Anyways, I did a mixture of passive-aggressive and uninterested dialogue to try to get Preston to stop talking. But in the end, another settlement needed our help, and I was forced to confront those things outside all on my own to save his sorry group. Lord. How is it possible?
Yellow.
Oh my god, what the is that a skinwalker? No, it's just a death claw. Whoa! What is that? Oh! No! At the end of the fight, I was left with battered power armor, many bullet casings, and absolute confusion as to who the hell strapped a rocket booster up a Deathclaw's ass. After unsuccessfully trying to puzzle it out, I went back inside to speak to Preston, and he gave me a laser musket along with some ammo. As quickly as I could, I parted ways with Preston and his group in the hopes of avoiding those accursed words. Though it wasn't long after going back to Red Rocket to scrap that I came across Preston again, as he walked towards Sanctuary. Fortunately, I found that running away from him very fast was an effective means for keeping him away. Now with supplies in my workbench and Preston in the wind, it was time to fortify Red Rocket. I put up walls, built some stairs, manufactured some turrets, and even installed a metal sliding door. By the time I was done, we had a very makeshift fort that hopefully would keep out the hellspawn that we found. And speaking of hellspawn, it wasn't long before we found another. I had just finished up modifying my guns for some extra firepower when I thought I heard something resembling the sound Siren Head had been producing. But that couldn't be. Even though Vault 111 was relatively close, it certainly wouldn't be close enough for me to hear Siren Head, unless the creature really turned up the volume. Still though, to be sure I headed out, coming up on the riverside. As I slowly crawled my way along the river, my Pip-Boy suddenly informed me of the danger I was in. A flashback to the smackdown Siren Head had given me flashed through my mind, but it turned out to be nothing more than a wild dog. As I turned to head back to Red Rocket, feeling relieved, I heard a very distinct beeping. Slowly crawling through the brush, as I emerged on the other side, the clear outline of the monster stood there, facing me through the trees. Now being well aware of the threat lurking near my home, I headed back to put the finishing touches in place, and think of a plan for how I was going to save the Commonwealth from these beasts. At this point in time, Siren Head is able to karate chop me into the ground with little to no effort, before I'm even able to do a sliver of damage. So if we want to kill the over-alive telephone pole, we're gonna have to either get stronger, get smarter, or acquire devastating, borderline war crime power weapons. Or do all three. In order to do any of that though, we need XP and caps. And so we headed out, meeting Trashcan Carla and Trudy along the way, selling most of the items I didn't need, and getting us closer to having a wealth of caps. As for XP, the best way to get it is to do quests. I thought about the kind of quests that were available, and one did come to mind.
They could use our help. They could use our help. They could use our help. They could use our help.
Continuing down the road on a quest to get some quest, I got jumped by a pair of nuclear lobsters, whom were promptly put to sleep. That is, very slowly. Next, I visited the town of Lexington, which proved to be lucrative with its oodles of raiders to decimate, abandoned buildings to explore, and monster-infested places that make you want to curl up in a corner and cry. That last one is especially nice. As I entered the Super Duper Mart, I was under the impression that it was just another abandoned store. That thought lasted for all of 3 seconds before I saw something in the corner. Using the zoom and identify feature in my eyeballs, I discovered that this creature was an ugly abomination. Also that it's called an eyeless gnasher. Seeing as this thing is eyeless, as long as you don't make any noise, they won't know you're there. But being quiet isn't exactly what I'm known for. While being utterly terrifying to wander through, the Super Duper Mart was fruitful in giving us some sweet, succulent, and juicy loot, such as the ammo from this safe, this cool magazine, alcohol, drugs and weapons, experience points, a fusion core, and of course, plenty of scrappable junk. Walking away from the Duper Mart, loot in my hands and shit in my pants, I headed home to evaluate the abundance of items I had collected. Upon getting there, I was greeted to an emergency siren blaring somewhere close by. As I climbed to the roof to inspect the area for the source of the noise, my vision started getting darker, until I couldn't see anything at all. It is so dark I can't see. I thought that the constant exposure to radiation had finally caught up with me, until I turned on my ARM computer's light and realized that it really was just dark. Confused about what was going on, I headed down to investigate further. What the fuck? Okay, that's strange. Probably just a chem addict. Oh my god! Okay, definitely a chem addict. While I was trying not to panic, Codsworth switched on his American protocols and confronted the beast, sending it screaming away. After which, the turrets opened fire, and I knew we were under siege. I built a guard tower and climbed up to survey the landscape, which must have sent the other side's general, who, judging by the siren alarms with Siren Head, into a panic, and the darkness began to retreat, along with the creatures from hell that came with it. Some stragglers remain, but I chose to don the power armor and take care of them personally. After that attack, I fully grasped the situation we were in. This was no longer about survival. This was war. And war never changes. The good part to war not changing is we know what we need to win, that being superior firepower. So let's set out to find it. I heard of a military group down south from Lexington that might hold the kind of weaponry I need, so I headed down there. While passing through Lexington, I made my way inside of a sewer pipe, and then into Corvega Assembly Plant, the main base of operations for a raider group, and cleared out the goons inside. Being careful to avoid random explosives, and then cleared out the goons inside, collecting more ammo and loot for the war effort. As I finished killing off the stragglers, my ARM computer picked up a military frequency, most likely from the military group we've been seeking out. The signal was coming from the town of Cambridge, not too far off from Lexington, so I headed that way. As I approached Cambridge, I noticed 2 eyeless gnashers hanging out by the entrance of College Square. I tried to blend in, but they clearly knew I wasn't a student here, and began to chase after me, probably smelling the psycho and radix I had. As I turned the corner, I found myself full sprinting into a fight between more eyeless gnashers and the group we've been chasing down. Without time to chat, I leaped over a fence to take shots at the gnashers, discovering that even though they were chasing me down for my chems, they must have clearly had enough already, because the only thing stopping them from getting to me was a foot-high fence, which proved to be much too difficult for them to figure out, and they resorted to beating on the metal man on the ground instead. Once the chem cravers were in a chem coma, I spoke with the metal man. He explained that he was a part of a large military group called the Brotherhood of Steel, and his team was the recon group for the Commonwealth. He also explained that he was trying to contact his superiors, but he couldn't push the signal through. So he needed to get into an old tech company's building and find a device to boost the signal, and he needed help to do it. Upon realizing that this is all their team had, and there was clearly no superior firepower to steal, I was ready to tip my hat to them and say good luck and goodbye. But then I realized maybe if I helped them, their superior firepower would come to me when they called reinforcements. Plus, I still needed the caps and the XP, so I opted to help them out. With that, we headed to ArcJet Systems, where we fought some robots, looted their corpses, found an underground rocket engine, fired the underground rocket engine, somehow managed to not kill Metal Man, fought some more robots, got the transmitter they wanted, and for all my excellent work, was rewarded with the first superior firearm. Metal Man also offered the opportunity to join the Brotherhood, and while I did tell him that I accepted his invitation, it was only so I could get close enough to them that I would be able to yoink the weapons from under their power-armored nostrils. But in order to accomplish that, I would need to blend in first, which is to say that I needed to make myself useful. So I took on some of their other tasks. The first of which was to clear out this subway station, which Codsworth and I were able to do with little issue, and also ended quite explosively. Next up was the searching and maybe finding the long dead bodies of the old recon team, where you start with the hope that maybe some of them survived, but as you fight through the hordes of Nashers and the small army of super mutants, you realize that everyone on this team meets their end. And as you approach the final transmitter, only to find strange worms and a third siren head, yes, that does make 3 that need to die, you lose all hope that anyone could have made it through this hell. Until you find the old man who led the recon unit. And yeah, he's still alive, but he is definitely insane from the years of isolation. I won't complain though, he let me take his stuff. The last thing on the to-do list was recovering some tech from a mall. I went inside, killed the raiders inhabiting the place, got whatever this thing is, and gave it to the scribe of the recon group. After this, I said my goodbyes to the Brotherhood for now. I was doing a lot of work for a very measly reward. And I mean, come on. Who can't round up to 100 caps from 99? So, with my mind made up, I headed towards the great diamond jewel of the Commonwealth, Green City. Once inside, I discovered that they had a missing persons case and I needed to find a detective synth named Nick. And being sick of the run-of-the-mill go place and shoot people,
What the fuck is that?
I was excited to finally change it up. So I went to a subway station, shot a bunch of triggermen, entered Vault 114, killed more triggermen, rescued a robot, watched a robot throw a fat man like a gorilla, finished off the triggermen, went back to Green City to collect my payment, and move on. Though, after seeing the smackdown Nick was able to give, I thought about what an asset an ape like that could be on the team. And I didn't want to part ways quite yet, so to test what else he could do, I came up with a fake story about my son being kidnapped, and came up with the most generic description of what I thought a mercenary could look like.
Wait. It couldn't be. You didn't hear the name Kellogg at all, did you?
You've got to be shitting me. You got someone from just that? And so, we broke into someone's old house, figured out they have a drinking problem, admired my looks, desperately fought off the darkness, used my dog to track down the mercenary by following the beer, found his new house, found another siren head, broke into his house, broke his staff, broke him, found a fat man, the nuke launcher variety, and went outside to find an awe-shocking sight.
We are the Brotherhood of Steel.
Knowing that my arms shipment had finally arrived, I went back to the police station and rode up to the blimp with Metal Man. Once there, I was met by the captain, and then attended a speech given by Elder Maxon. And to show him that I was fully paying attention, I stood behind him on the window. I was ordered to meet the crew, and I used this opportunity to secretly scour for weapons I could take. The crew was nothing notable, except for this doctor who asked me some interesting questions during my physical.
Have you ever had sexual relations with any species considered non-human?
What is the sex? Unfortunately, the Brotherhood of Steel is a shit-ass army, and has an even more shit-ass armory. So I said my goodbyes to the Brotherhood, and left with nothing but a new set of power armor they gave to me as a gift, and a crippling blow to my self-esteem. I went back to base, ready to reevaluate the plan. As I was moving the power armors around, I heard a vertibird. I looked into the sky, watching it as it passed. Then I turned to go back to my workshop. When I did, a lying figure's stealth boy ran out of juice, and it was revealed to me. This wasn't just a random spy. This was an infiltrator and soon after, Siren Head sent his hordes to siege my base. The army was strong and the battle was long, but in the end, we had victory. Now back to the matter at hand. Through mercenary fights and Green City sites, we have forgotten what we're here to do. To destroy Siren Head. And while I was off questing, Siren Head had been preparing. No more delays. The Siren Head menace must be defeated. Even after all this preparation, we still don't have strong enough weapons. No, I refuse to let Siren Head win. If the weapons we have aren't cutting it, then goddammit, we need more! Luckily, I know just how to get it. The first weapon is one we can buy. During our travels, I heard of a merchant named Cricket, who clearly had a chem problem, and was more than willing to trade her submachine gun with explosive ammo for nothing more than a few caps and some psycho. One gun isn't gonna cut it though. What we need is an army. But we've seen how good armies are in the Commonwealth. So what we really need is a one-man killing machine. Machine. That gives me an idea. I've heard of this person in the Commonwealth creating walking, talking war crimes. If I find this person, maybe I can get the means to create some myself. I listened to a radio distress call coming from a caravan attacked by these robots. By the time I got there, the robots had already won the fight, but upon killing them and scouring the wreckage, I came across the caravan's old robot, who explained that the person responsible went by the mechanist. Determined to find this mechanist, I drafted the caravan's robot and set out to find them. I discovered that in order to locate the mechanist, I would need 3 of these devices, that together would give me a location. To get them, I would need to take them from 3 of the mechanist robo-brains. So I went to a factory, killed a bunch of robots, got a bunch of parts, and grabbed the device. I then went to Fort Hagen and I got to watch Siren Head fight the robots for me, which was just an absolute treat. The ammo I didn't spend killing those robots would just get to be put into Siren Head later. The whole event would have been perfect until, well, this happened. Shut up, you wild dog, you've got them over by me now! Oh, shit! Fortunately, I was able to run around them while Metal Man took the beating and nabbed the part. To grab the last part, I need to raid the Rust Devils, a raider group that's just smart enough to put a few scrap parts together and make it walk. And with my growing power, Metal Man and I were almost able to completely decimate them with no problem. I even found the last device quickly. Turns out it was just this Robo-Brain's head named Jezebel. Except, I tried to be polite and have a conversation with this robot. Oh my god. With that hellspawn dead, I grabbed Jezebel's head, and out the raider base we fled, stopping to acquire some new and very powerful weapons along the way. Now that we had all 3 parts we needed, the drafted robot and I were able to pinpoint the mechanist's location, so we went to the sales and service center, fought through hordes, and hordes, and hordes, and even more hordes of robots, went through more doors than I thought could be physically present in one space, and finally, we were able to confront the mechanist. And then had to fight through another horde of robots. In the end, the mechanist forgot to pay the power bill, and was forced to confront me face to face. Through some diplomacy, we were able to come to an understanding. She gave me the robot making schematics, and I finally had everything I needed to take the fight back to the Siren Heads. Now that we're back at base, it's time to get prepared for round 2, and this time, I don't plan on losing. With all our scrap parts saved up, new weapons thirsty for battle, and all the robot schematics you can dream of, it's time to make the perfect set of equipment for a Siren Head slaughter. There we go. The darkness has receded for the final time, and as we finish off what remains of our foes, we finally stand in victory, and for once, a good ending. No, I'm just kidding. But my crystal does seem unusually electrified.